So, I just want to voice my opinion about the Savannah neighborhoods and why these neighborhoods are this way. Now, when you think about Savannah neighborhoods, people think about the hoods, like the ghetto, hoods, and like people ask, what exactly is the hood in Savannah? I mean, there's several hoods. I mean, you got Fred Wessel, you got Yamacraw, Cam Park, Caton Homes, Tatumville. I mean, there's a few other neighborhoods. There's also like some streets in Savannah, like you have Waters Avenue. You have some other streets on East Savannah, West Savannah as well. You have so-called hood areas. Now you wondering like, why is it called the hood? Is it because of black people? Is it because it's dominated by black people? No. I mean, there's areas in which there's black people dominate that neighborhood, but it's not technically a hood. Like, for example, me growing up, I grew up, part of my childhood in Cloverdale. Cloverdale is actually a nice neighborhood. It's on the west side. It's actually right next to Carver Village. Carver Village, some people might say that's a hood too. But Cloverdale is a neighborhood predominantly in that area is black people, black families. I lived there from like when I was born to like when I was 7 years old. When I was 7 years old, I moved to Savannah on the south side. When I moved to the south side in the suburbs off Quaco, that neighborhood was still predominantly black people. So you gotta understand and identify what's a hood and what's not a hood. Now let me explain to you what's a hood. I mean, a hood is just basically simple, an area where crime occurs, where any type of crime, drug dealing, shootouts, murder, robbery, and I wouldn't say that type of stuff is kind of glorified, but people recognize that as being hood or having ghetto-like material. So I just want to answer a question that somebody asked me. Is the hood really that bad? My opinion, everybody has their own opinion. If you feel like my opinion is wrong, hey, feel free to get in the comment section, let me know. But is the hood really bad? I would say yes in Savannah, because look at it this way. Hell, I tell you even a story that happened recently this week. Actually, there was a shooting by the YMCA off on the west side. Now, actually, my girlfriend works at this YMCA. Now, this YMCA, they actually have a daycare center, and part of the story that I was hearing from multiple people that work at the job, not only just my girlfriend, but some other people, they had a shooting outside of the daycare, and the daycare is only blocked off by a gate, by a metal gate. So you're talking about a shooting by a daycare, and also by this daycare is a gym court or an outside basketball court. So you got people out here that's really shooting by children. You know what I'm saying? They don't care. Bullets fly. When somebody brags about shooting a gun, bullets tend to go through their target. You can't block a bullet. And also about the hood, you also got to recognize where you're at inside Savannah. I mean, if you're in Yamacraw, I mean, things are just going to get pretty bad for you. I mean, just living in that area. I mean, you have areas like the projects where shootings happen, obviously. I mean, shootings happen in the projects. I mean, usually shootings happen in the projects pretty much weekly. Sometimes it goes reported, sometimes it goes unreported. I mean, it depends on if somebody was injured or not. And also, what you got to think about the hood, you got to think about the living conditions. For example, Westlake, I kind of live kind of close to it. I wouldn't say I live close to it. I stay kind of close to it. But Westlake, if you guys seen the video that I done about Westlake, when Hurricane Matthew came, and they was like the maintenance people was just straggling about fixing the apartments. Now they got Westlake renovated, but now it's like, well, that place already has flooding issues. It already had mold issues, and keep it real, Westlake is old. You know what I'm saying? Westlake it was built in like the 1970s. I'm not sure when, but it was an old place. And matter of fact, I'll tell you something else. One of my first apartments that I ever moved to was on White Bluff, and that was an old apartment complex too. That was in the 1970s. I mean, it was on the south side, so it wasn't a lot of, I would say, black people in that apartment complex. But still, when you're dealing with old buildings, and I know this because, you know, I'm dealing with construction work myself. So when you're dealing with like old homes and old buildings, you come across a lot of maintenance. You know, you have to check the walls to see if there's no water leaking through. I mean, my first apartment was, I mean, it was okay until all the problems start happening. And you know what I'm saying? It wasn't in the hood. But I translate that into saying this is, you have places where, like old places like Fred Wessel Homes, Caton Homes, those places been up since like the 60s and the 70s. Sometimes I think one of them was in like the 50s. You know, and the thing about your living conditions is nobody should really want to live in squander. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying, you know, I live better than anybody else. No, because I don't. You know, I stay on the west side too. But at the same time, it's all about how you want to get yourself out of the situation that you're in now. Now, I do admit some people don't have it financially. I understand that. You know, I completely understand that. I've been broke 1,000 times. So I understand that some people just can't afford living on the south side and luxury apartment homes. I mean, some people just can't afford that, and I understand. But as far as, you know, living in conditions where these houses are old and really have little to no maintenance performed on it until something disastrous happened to it, I mean, at this point, you know, black people just have to, I wouldn't even say, well, I guess you could say migrate, you know what I'm saying? Because why would you want to live in the hood, you know, live in a place where the house looked like a mud hut, you know? And I'm not trying to break down on anybody else that's living in these areas, but, you know, black people, we can really do better. And it starts with rebuilding the communities, you know, transferring broken down and rusty and old homes and furnishing them into new homes, you know. Now, you obviously can't do that with the projects. You know, you can't, I mean, if you tear down the projects, you might as well build something else up. And that's one thing that I just always wanted to see happen. You know, I always wanted to see, you know, the projects go away. Because nobody really loves being in the projects. Come on, be serious. I mean, nobody really loves being in that type of area or even that environment. Because like I said, shootings happen, robberies happen, murders happen. And then if you have a child growing up in this area, he's going to fall a victim or he's going to play a part in the crime. And I don't have kids myself. I mean, someday in the future, I would like to have some. But if I was living in the hood and I had children, I would immediately move. I would not stay in these areas. I moved somewhere far off to the south side. I moved somewhere to freaking Pooler. Hell, I moved to Bloomingdale if I had to. But just not living in the hood. It's just not something that's ideal, you know, to black. I mean, it's ideal to black people because I guess it's just more convenient. But ideal for having a family, no. And violence is another thing about the hoods, you know. And what I can say is, you know, about the murders and homicides, we had 50 homicides as of last year. I thought it was 51, but I guess it's 50 now. But as far as the homicides go, we're usually in that 50 area. We're usually in that below 50 or just around 50 area as far as homicides per year. Now, I can say if Savannah was the size of Memphis or if Savannah was the size of Jacksonville, we would have over 60 homicides easily. I mean, easily. I mean, because, I mean, when you look at it, Savannah is not a big city at all. I mean, the biggest side of town is the south side. Second to that is the east. then the West, and then, you know, I guess Pool or whatever, but that's not Savannah. So you got to compare your geographic location with other cities. Again, like I said, being in the hood doesn't mean just because you live predominantly next to black people. I've lived in neighborhoods that was predominantly black and like no crime happened. But then when you go into the inner cities, you'll see hoods, you know, you'll see deterioration in the homes. And every day it doesn't get better. It gets worse by the day. You know, nobody's really coming in the West Savannah and rebuilding homes like that. I mean, maybe there are some, but where the places I drive to, people ain't really rebuilding those homes like that. Simply because nobody wants to invest in an area that's deteriorating and looks unpleasant. I mean, simply as it. I mean, and then you got to put it into the economic factor. How many people will come into my business, will come into my store if it's in this area? And if I have it in this area, what would be the likelihood of this store, this business getting robbed? So that's why you don't see too many businesses on the West besides a garage, a beauty store, a nail store. I mean, you'll see that. You might see a McDonald's, but as far as like black owned new businesses, you won't see too much of that. Not a whole lot, not compared to other sides of town. Now you probably asking, well, you're doing a lot of criticism about these areas. What could be done about these hoods? Well, rebuild them or break them down and put something else there, like a home or a type of apartments there where people can actually live there and not feel frightened about the crime areas. And also about the crime in the hoods, you gotta eliminate, or I should say kick out, the individuals who are doing this types of crime. Now that could be pretty hard. I mean, you can't really tell somebody not to be on this side of town or that side of town or be in this neighborhood when your neighborhood is not gated. But if you really want your environment, your neighborhoods to feel safe, to feel like you can walk down the street at night and not get robbed, you would want to kick out the people that's doing the dumb shit. I'm just being honest with you. You would want to kick out the people who's causing the problem as well, for the crime problem. Because if these areas are already bad enough, you don't want people just making it worse by their shootings and their robberies, their whatnots. You know, eliminate those people out of society or out of your neighborhoods, because that's one factor. You know, the other factor is just simply rebuilding. You know, these old homes can only be restored for so long until something eventually happens, until you have to keep fixing it and keep fixing it. It's better off just, in my opinion, just tear down some of these old homes that have no value to it, tear them down and build something else up in front. So I really wish what they would have done with Westlake. I really wish they would have just teared that whole place down and just start something new. Give the people that used to live there, let them stay in the hotel for however long they need it until they can come back. You know, but instead they want to renovate the same thing over and over again that's been here since the 70s. But I mean, that's my opinion about it. Put your opinion on it if you feel like what I said is wrong or just different, or I mean, if you just want to put your own opinion, hey, feel free. You know, if we can all have our own opinions, whether we agree or whether we disagree. I mean, we can agree to disagree, but you gotta let me know how you feel. Get in that comment box, let me know. But that's all for right now. It's Pacman Jones with Savannah Seaport News, and I'm out.